Welcome back, chums, and welcome back to a new video. So today I want to talk about a few topics which have been kinda circling around the internet and the community recently, and those are three things. First off being update or DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, and the second one being the multiplayer aspect in Project Orion, or well, the sequel to Cyberpunk itself. And it's important that we stay realistic. For everyone who's just watching me for the first time, keep in mind that I'm kind of a pessimistic person when it comes to some of these things, and I like to keep things kinda realistic and what's possible and what's not. But at the same time, I try to be fair because obviously throughout everything we have seen regarding CDPR, they are prone to changes and some revisions which later on might result in something being released. So first off, when it comes to the updates themselves, it has been known for a while now, and it has been said by CDPR and also by Gabe Mentangelo, who is the director of the game. He said that if they do actually see something which is relevant to the game, and it's something that they want to include, obviously a smaller piece of content, they will absolutely include it in the game because they want to keep expanding on it as much as they can, obviously, because a lot of these things ultimately end up with the, CD Projekt, management board, if they're going to give the budget for this or not, if they have the plans for it or not. So you will have developers or well, team leads, pitch something to the management to, let's say, how about we do this in this way, and they will ultimately say yes or no. So keep in mind that these things are always prone to changes. Whatever they say or not say might happen, might not. So update wise, first off we have the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk coming out with the release of Switch 2, so I'm pretty certain that you just celebrate the release on Switch 2. They might have an update which might include some things here and there, again small stuff but not impossible. And there is also the new anime project which is announced, but we don't know the details, so we don't know like which characters are going to be, what the story is going to be. But if we go along with like the Edge Runners update, I'm pretty sure but when eventually that anime comes out, they might do something in line with like Edge Runners. Maybe they do a jacket, maybe they do a weapon, or a quest, a mission here and there. So of course I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to receive updates for Cyberpunk 2077 every few months in the foreseeable future. And also if we take a look at SteamDB, like prior to them, privating everything because you cannot really follow up with the behind the scenes QA versions of the game anymore, but there has been some changes and some things are happening in the background. So smaller updates with some pieces of content, absolutely yes, I think that is very much going to happen. Now when we talk about DLCs, there is a very important distinction when it comes to CD Projekt and how they label DLC and expansion. So even though yes, an expansion is a DLC because it's a downloadable content, of course, but in the terms of like just how they word it, for CD Projekt, DLC is always going to be that small piece of content, like some of the stuff which they included already in Cyberpunk 2077, which we had a chance to see. But an expansion is going to be that huge piece of content, like for example in the case of Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, and in the case of like The Witcher, that's going to be Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. So when it comes to expansions, these things are not going to happen for Cyberpunk 2077. It's not going to have another big expansion, for example like Phantom Liberty was. Because first of all, these things cost money and you need developers to make them. And if you actually take a look at for example like just the structure within the company from the latest report, you can see that it's not really going to be the case. And if you're talking about outsourcing these projects, of course, when it comes to updates, they already outsourced some things, like for example in the previous bigger Cyberpunk update, but for a full expansion, they're not going to outsource that. So when someone talks about a DLC, it's very important to set your expectations because that doesn't mean anything huge. And those DLC features, in a sense, they're just going to be a part of the update in case they actually do happen. But I know that a lot of people want to see a new expansion for the game. I would love to see another expansion for Cyberpunk, But yeah, sadly it's not going to happen. Now when it comes to the multiplayer side of Project Orion, we also learned a while back when CD Projekt was actually restructuring their company after the release of Cyberpunk 2077 back in the day. They said long time ago that they actually want all of their future projects to have some sort of a multiplayer online aspect to it. Now of course when you hear a definition of an online or a multiplayer aspect, it can be done in various ways, going from the classic, multiplayer modes to having like some sort of a co-op. So these things basically, when they go into this multiplayer side of things, they can be something that they think about, but does not necessarily mean that it's going to be the case like for the game being only online or being heavily relying on the multiplayer. Because first off, they're relying on their single player games because they sell well. There is the aspect of GOG, DRM free and all of that, which you have to kind of maintain because that's the business model of your company, or well, one of your companies which you have. So whatever it is, it has to be done in a certain way where it's not intrusive and it's not going to change the aspect of the single player title being a single player title, which is definitely achievable and something you can do if you do it right. Now in the case of Project Orion, the people have been looking at, for example, job listings, and there it says like we're looking for someone who's gonna be working on the online multiplayer side of things, which is, yeah, of course, but we cannot judge everything from just a multiplayer listing because all of these things are being discussed all the time. Even for Cyberpunk 2077, they were exploring the possibility of some sort of a multiplayer. It never panned out, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were actually researching the same things for, Project Orion. Then we also have to take into account The Witcher 4, which if they said they want to have some sort of an online aspect, we need to see if they're going to do something similar to it in The Witcher 4. Now at the same time, there is the project which is, was done by Molasses Flood because that studio has been fully implemented into CD Projekt. So Molasses Flood technically does not exist in that standpoint anymore. They are a part, officially of like CD Projekt like umbrella. And they will be kind of labeling their games under CD Projekt in a sense. Now that project is labeled as a multiplayer Witcher game in some way, shape or form. We don't know what is it going to be, what the formula is going to be, but it seems that project is something that CD Projekt has been testing a bit to see how that multiplayer aspect would work in their games and ultimately if people are going to accept it or not. But it would be cool if maybe in like the sequel for Cyberpunk there is a way of co-op. I think for me that would be really cool, just to have some sort of a co-op with friends. You can do like some missions here and there without actually ruining like the single player again part of the game, because ultimately that should be like the main point of CD Projekt. Everything else should be just on top of it to enhance the main experience. But I feel like these things are so far away that, talking about them now is a bit tricky because many things have changed or could change. Like Project Orion is still in pre-production. If we take into account that, The Witcher 4 is coming out, let's say in 2027, the end of 2027, let's say that's going to be the release date. It's still going to take them, even regardless of what the stage, Cyberpunk project is in, I doubt it's gonna be coming out until at least 2029, maybe even 2030. Which I know is pessimistic, but again, people kinda assured me, yes, we're getting Witcher 4 in 2025. Then we learn it's not coming out even in 2026, so these things take time. It's gonna take a few years until all of these things fall into place, and we still have to go through like the next Witcher game, see how that's gonna be done in Unreal Engine 5. How is that game going to be before we talk about anything else or consider that multiplayer aspect. But I'm pretty sure that they're also kinda researching maybe some sort of a multiplayer only project for Cyberpunk if everything else pans out right. I mean, why not? You would do it as well, because multiplayer can generate you big money. Let's face it, if the multiplayer game is successful and popular, you can make some good money off of it. But at the same time, if the project is not good, there is a higher chance or well a risk of that being, just a waste of money. But if you ask me personally, I think the main focus of CD Projekt right now in terms of like Cyberpunk 2077 should be the release of full modding tools, because let's face it, mods can really and already did change this game, entire aspects of it, whatever, adding new stuff. So having proper modding tools like they have for The Witcher 3 would be definitely a step in the right direction, because you're going to just give people more opportunities and a good software that they can just continue to make bigger and bigger mods for the game. But of course, I mean, when it comes to smaller updates for Cyberpunk, you can absolutely expect them, because that's something we already know. As far as the DLCs go, again, that's going to be most likely a part of like the update itself, because technically, like the Edge Runners update, like some of the stuff like the one mission, you know, the jacket, the shotgun, that was technically a small DLC, so in that terms, absolutely yes. But expansions are a whole different thing, because a lot of people have been also going from this image where you have like the birthdays of like characters, and then you have some like which are, you know, unknown, and people kind of started speculating about that. Of course, that can be related to the sequel, that can be related to the Netflix anime, whatever, but it's not going to give us a whole new like part of the game. That's sadly not happening. I mean, if it does and I'm wrong, absolutely yes, I want more, but I mean, come on. And that's it for today. I mean, I know I'm a bit pessimistic when it comes to these things, like I try to kind of keep things realistic on what to expect and what not to expect, so if I ruin something, well, it is what it is, but I still think it's gonna be done in this way. Let's see if I'm going to be wrong or not. But you can tell me down below in the comments, what do you think about all of this, and what do you expect from the multiplayer online aspects, or what do you want to see when it comes to that in like Project Orion, or maybe you don't want to see it at all, just let me know down below in the comments. As always, don't forget to check us out on Twitter and Discord if you want to stay updated with everything that the community does, and huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and I will see you very soon with a new video, chooms. Bye bye.